Today, me karakia tātou. We'll start with the karakia. It will come up on the screen. Pātaka te hau ki te Pātaka te hau ki te tonga. Ia māke ki te tonga. Ātara ki tai. Ia te ātara. Okay. So welcome to everybody here in the room, everybody on watching online, and also we've got some people who are participating via Zoom as well. Just to let you know how we roll, how we work here on Peninsula Community Board. The table is kind of like the dining table. This is where we have the family meetings. You know, we get together and we have a chat, you talk and you listen, and everything happens here at the table. Some of you who have made a reservation appointment today to speak with deputation or a public forum, we will call you up. If that is the case, come up to the front. If you're sitting here, that's the lounge area at the back. Just sit back, relax and listen. Yeah, all the talking happens here at the table. So that's the way that we get things done, and it runs smoothly that way. Thank you very much. What else do I need to say? I think that's it. Apologies. We don't have any apologies today, so nothing to move or second there. Any declarations of interest by the board? And as always, we ask board members to come forward if during the time you realise, oh, actually this could be a conflict of interest, in your best interest to do so.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. It appears that I may have a perceived conflict of interest on agenda item on BP meets. So I've been advised not to participate in that. So I won't be making any comment or participate in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Asa.
You can answer questions though. No? Okay.
Confirmation of previous minutes. Yeah, I'll just assume that it's been read and understood. Anything needing to be adjusted or words changing? Everybody looks pretty happy. Can I have a mover and a second to that, please? We've got Luana and Kathy. All those in favour? Aye. Yes. That's carried. Great. Thanks, team. All right. Public forums. Deputation by appointment. So, moving right along, we've got Marie Haley. First up, come on up and introduce yourself and your connection to what you're talking about today. Thank you.
So I'm Marie Haley. I'm the new chair of the Edinburgh Civic Trust. Will the PowerPoint be on the screen? Great.
I'll give you a little warning when you're getting towards the end.
Right.
So you can either speak fast or whatever, because it's always good to have a question. Yeah, if you can. Let's see how you go.
So I wish to thank the staff for the opportunity to speak, as the Civic Trust submission is not included in the staff report today for the BP meets. That's because for some reason it wasn't received. So we acknowledge, first of all, I would like to acknowledge the difficult time that EPRA has had with lately facing the number of loved ones that have been passing in this community and the difficult situation that we have at the moment. I also want to acknowledge the wastewater issue, which has been difficult across this community. I acknowledge the work that has been done on the Whakarapo Littleton Climate Adaptation Plan, and acknowledge the board members who have all got the community at heart. And this is why I know that you do this work. So thank you. First, I want to raise concerns at the council process. Last Monday, the council released a 45-page staff report and a 59-page data sheet with 3 days for the community to book a deputation and raise feedback. Luckily, I was able to book a deputation and get a PowerPoint through. I apologise for the spelling of Littleton. I didn't have time to do a proofread of it. I asked the chair today to question staff on the data presented, specifically in 7.14 of the agenda. If you can all please refer to that, I would really like to talk through the data that has been released in that staff report. The council say that there has been 100 respondents. But actually, when you read through the data and you add up the number of responses, there are 280. So when the council say that 39 people supported housing and 39 people supported commercial use, your immediate response in your brain is to say 39% supported that, but actually only 14% supported housing and 14% supported commercial use. 24% want the butcher site to remain, and 22% of responses were for community use. 22% were for community use. I could go on about that. Why? I would like the chair to ask the staff, please, why did the council not ask a yes/no answer? There is so much data available in this data sheet, you can't make sense of it. And I would like to also say that the council has said there's 6 no's against housing, but actually I read 24 or 8.4% specifically said no, and 12% implied no in their answer. Also, 66 said no against commercial use. 23 specifically, 23% said no, 6% said specifically no, and 17% implied no. The overall feedback from the community that is captured by 1 comment, and I would say that the feedback that I received in person from the community really does point towards this 1 comment that's in the data sheet. Not expecting much from the council. You don't listen. I'm sure you have your own agenda and have already made up your minds. This community feels that the decision has already been made by the council staff. The community is not involved in this process, and the staff report does not represent the community aspirations. I asked the elected representatives of Littleton and Little River to question what this would look like in your own communities. What would you like it to look like in your hometown? And now I'd like to present the PowerPoint. So if we can just skip to the next. The Beefy Meat site is the only publicly owned flat land available for development in Edinburgh. And these are the council projections for sea level rise. So this is quite simple. It's 25 years time, 25 years ahead. 2050, 20 centimetres sea level rise, basically the lowest setting you can have on the council data. This is a rare 1 in 100 year event. The flooding inundation of Akaroa compared to that of Littleton. In the Whakarākau Littleton plan, Littleton isn't included in that plan because there is no effect to the road, there is no effect to the houses, there is no effect to the businesses. The next page. 1 metre sea level rise. Same thing, Littleton's not affected. Akaroa is sunk. Next page. Now this is where it gets interesting because you might think 2050, it's never going to happen, 1 in 100 year event. This is at the lowest settings every year. Every year. This is the Beefy Meat site here. Out of sea level rise, the rest of Akaroa is inundated with 20 to 50 to 100 centimetres of water. Next page. And the impact on our infrastructure and our access to this community at the lowest settings every year. Next page. I'd like to remind the council that these are the council's strategies when it comes to climate change. The communities are accessible and well connected, that we can all grow our potential. and the council will invest in adaptation and resilience. The next page, and I'd like to remind the community board of their priorities, specifically here point 5, actively engage in coastal hazard adaptation, process to support the communities most affected by sea level rise.
Absolutely, no worry, you've got 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the chair today to ask the staff where the heritage assets and the community services are going to be relocated to in 25 years' time. For people living and working in this town, this is a basic human need, ensuring that our community is accessible and well connected and that we all can grow our potential. The Epirau Civic Trust asked the board to reject the council's staff report on the Beacon Meats site. It does not represent the community feedback, and really it's quite ridiculous. What would it look like in your town? And I would feel very confident to say that this is the voice of Epirau. I haven't heard anyone raise any other point on this. The community has been removed again from this discussion, and it won't go well. So thank you. I will take
Questions? Right. We've got 1.5 minutes. Excuse me.
Sorry. Hi, Marie, good to see you. There is, there's obviously, there was in the plan, the long-term plan to actually move the customs house onto that site.
yes.
Which, so are you advocating then that that site just be used as a place for other buildings to be removed to? Is that where this is going?
Not necessarily. I think if you did a climate adaptation plan and you decided that the sea wall needed to be lifted, and actually Epirau Township won't flood because you've got the right infrastructure in place that you don't need to move those assets, then you don't want to move those assets. But where are you going to move them to if you must, because you haven't done the climate adaptation plan?
Yep, thank you very much.
So what I'm hearing you say is you would like the climate adaptation plan to be done before any decisions long term about anything.
Yes, I think we need to get the horse before the cart. That this community needs clear strategy and planning, and that the community needs to be placed in the heart of that. We have a very diverse community. It's often seen by the council as being a privileged community. It's not. It's long-term local residents that live here that have a tight-knit community and want to be involved. And you can see from the council's data set that they have released that the community actually wants mixed use of this property. We're not against housing, we're not against commercial, but why use the whole site for one thing that's planned outside of the community?
Thank you so much for coming today, and we hear what you're saying. We understand our priorities very clearly. We're very hard on our priorities. So thank you for talking to those, because we do know them. We work really hard on them. Yes. No? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So I've been involved with the coastal adaptation for Littleton and Rākaihautū. And I'm aware how long it takes.
Yes.
And so I would anticipate that that would take at least a couple of years. So is that an issue for you, or do you think?
Not at all. We need to start. We need to start today. 5 years will be 5 years longer if we wait 5 years to start. This community has more risk than Littleton, Pātaka, Port Levy. It's going to cost more, it's going to be more difficult. It has to begin. And the council shouldn't be wasting money when they need to be prioritising the money on this.
Right, thank you. Next, we've got Harry. So come up to the table. Just reintroduce yourself, Harry, for those who don't know you.
Been a while since you've been here.
I'm Harry Strong, I'm the president of the Ratepayers and Residents Association. I was actually overseas last week, so I only got into the subject yesterday. However, people have been contacting me about this and here collecting thoughts. I think the staff report is simply proof that the council shouldn't be trying to do this sort of stuff. Councils are not very good at this sort of thing. And the last 25 years of discussion about the PP lead side proves that point. The current document doesn't show any advance in the thinking since the 2011 version. It's worse than that. It reads to me like a job creation scheme for the council planners and their consultants at the ratepayers' expense. The ideas presented are dull, boring, and uninspiring. A real lack of vision. You know, if you go down this path, what you'll end up with is a monument to a lost opportunity. So there's a discussion about affordable housing. Yeah, I know there's an affordable housing problem. We all know that. But this is not the way to fix it. This is absolutely the wrong location. And affordable housing is only going to be affordable if somebody subsidises it. Now, unless you can actually fix that part of the equation, there's nothing to discuss about affordable housing. Now, it's not going to be the ratepayer subsidising it either. I read through all the submissions again yesterday. I did a word search. The word butcher got mentioned 151 times. Yeah. Everybody wants the butcher to stay. They probably don't care particularly what building it's in, but if you want the butcher, that's fine. The word vegetable only got 13 mentions, so that tells you something, doesn't it? The word community got 263 mentions. The consistent trend I read in those submissions was the desire for a community facility, a feature, community space with community involvement. That did not get reflected in the staff report. For example, the staff report, and I'm quoting here, in terms of requests for nature play in the community garden, the council's public open space strategy notes that Akaroa has an abundance of high quality open space areas, and therefore you don't need another one. End of discussion as far as council staff are concerned. Well, I think that's a bit rude, really, because that doesn't reflect what the submission said. They did get one item right in the staff report, though. They said, there is a risk the community perceives that there is a predetermined land use for the site. Well, I nailed on that one, didn't I? It's not just a risk, it's putting there a certainty. We've been here before with these consultation processes, and we can recognise this sort of thing when it happens. I don't know what is really best for that site. I lean towards something that would be tourist attraction type thing that would help to even out the highs and lows of the tourist season around here. You know, the coming 4 months or so when the town's going to be dead. You could, something over there could be of use to the town from that point of view. But there's nothing about that in the staff report. If you can't come up with a really good idea, there is no harm in just leaving the site as it is in the meantime. But what I do know, there's a lot of clever people out there, and some of them have great ideas. I've previously suggested there should be a design competition. So you spend $10,000 or $20,000 and you will get some fantastically good ideas. I think the council planners have probably spent $10,000 already driving backwards and forwards to Rākaihautū to think about the idea, to think about their word. That could have been spent in a much better way with the design competition. So the staff are asking you to agree that the best potential land uses are these 3 concept plans that they've got. And they're asking you to give them instructions to carry on down this path. Well, if you go down that path, we all know where it's going to end up. A monument to a lost opportunity. And you will have immense kickback from the community. People don't like what's happening at the moment, and they are going to like it less and less. And it's going to be divisive. In my submission, I said, the submission I put in 6 months ago, I said, what the town really needs is inspiration, enthusiasm and leadership. We're looking to you, the people around this table, for leadership. Exercise some leadership, put a halt to the current process and get some really good ideas that we can all be proud of working with. And I'm just going to close by quoting from a statement that was made by Keith Harris in his submission. And he said, the BP meat site represents an unparalleled opportunity to enrich Akaroa's community and tourism offerings and to meet gaps within its village fabric. By prioritising adaptability, connectivity and thoughtful integration with the village's heritage, this development can serve as a welcoming space for both locals and visitors, supporting Akaroa's continued vibrancy and resilience. And we don't see any of that in what staff are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you coming here today. That's great. Anybody got any questions?
Oh, not me, but thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Always
Gary.
very concise.
All very clear.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming in today. Right, correspondence. So we have received correspondence from the Akaroa Butchery in Delhi, and we also received correspondence from Keith Harris in regards to this topic. So we need to make sure that we have received that and tabled it as correspondence, and we'll confirm that. Can I have a mover for that, please? Okay, Nigel can move and seconded from Tyrone. All those in favour? Yes, that's carried. Thank you very much. Let's keep moving ahead. What have we got next? We have got Angus and Sam up front to talk to us. Well, in regards to the BP meat site, what we're here for this morning.
Thank you. The team here as well is Raymond from my team, who's done all the daily hard work on this. We've got William, landscape design, we've got Janine, on our planning and design and development team. We'll just run through some notes on this that we're ready to talk to the report. So thank you. We're here to present the report on 67A Boulevard, summarising the community feedback from phase 1 of the consultation, an outline of phase 2 engagement plan. So this report purely presents the community ideas and views from our consultation process and outlines the process moving forward. The site's been a focal point for the community for a long time, and our goal today and the process we've been in is to give you that feedback and step you forward to make some decisions eventually on the future use of the site. And we've had a few meetings here about, we want to move forward. We think the site needs a decision. It's been sitting there for a long time, so we're here to guide you through that process. So it's known as the BP meat site. It holds historical significance, and it's got potential, as you heard from the previous two speakers, for future development that aligns with the community aspirations. The council's been engaging with the community to gather feedback on the possible uses for the site and to ensure a future decision reflects the needs and desires of the residents. So I might hand over to Sam, who's done all the hard work on the community engagement, and she can talk to that. We didn't get a chance to debrief, but there's some conversation on the Civic Trust numbers of respondents and what that translated to the percentages. So Sam wasn't here for that, so she was a little bit late. So we'll see if we can cover that off in questions maybe.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Seems like a plan. So the first phase of engagement aimed to target early engagement with key stakeholders, especially those on and surrounding the site, to share the project process, gather some intel and obtain early feedback on the potential future land use options. That was followed by a broader consultation with the community, but this is all part of early engagement for the site. So not official consultation or submissions, but we're really looking at having these in-person conversations where possible, just to gather some ideas. So I met with Raymond, and I pretty much met with every leaseholder on site, where possible. Some of them had to be on Microsoft Teams, and came out, had a couple of days in the community at the local market, having plenty of conversations, but we also ran that online feedback process from the 31st of October to the 24th of November last year. We engaged a total of 100 respondents through that process. Feedback was received from 3 recognised organisations, 6 businesses and 91 individuals. 3 had to be removed from analysis. I'm happy to go into a little bit more detail on that. 1 was a blank submission or blank feedback. 1 was deemed to be inappropriate to analyse, and 1 did not include any a name or contact details for us to voice that feedback loop. I'm just going to say the Kōrero and My Let's Talk webpage received 902 views, and we got the word out there as best as we could through the Aotearoa Mail and plenty of posters up in the community. I think it'll be a lot easier to go out for round 2 engagement because we've got quite a lot of interest and quite a lot of people that we've already engaged. Main findings from community feedback. Mixed use activity was absolutely the most preferred, just given almost everyone's feedback included multiple themes. Preserving the existing butchery in the main building came out as the top individual theme, followed by creating more community spaces and ensuring the site best serves Aotearoa over the coming decades. Concerns were raised about retail competition, the lack of car parking, the main building, the maintenance of the butcher building over the years, broader priorities like housing shortage and affordability, climate resilience and sustainable development. There was a clear preference throughout this feedback for thoughtful planning to ensure the future use aligns with community values while addressing evolving demographic trends, economic shifts and environmental challenges for future generations. I might hand back to Angus at this point, who's just going to explain how we analyse that feedback alongside some of the site development principles.
Yeah, so we took all those views from the community and we assessed those against 10 site development principles. There was was part of a review of the economic places and spaces planned for 2011. So we combined that all together to come up with what we assessed through that analysis as the preferred options for the site. And there was 2 clear worthwhile activities that for all that analysis and feedback that looked worthwhile to pursue, and that is commercial and residential. So we provided some plans in the report to give you just an idea of what that could look like. So they're just different concepts, preconceived idea. It's just like here, you could have all of the site as residential, could look like this, or you could have it all as commercial, could look like this, or you could have a mix of the 2. I'd also stress that those uses wouldn't preclude community uses as well. Like we've got smaller but similar to this building, it's a commercial type building and it has some community activity and use in it. So in terms of the process we've explained before and we're partway through now, is we're looking to today with this report to the board to consider this feedback from the community, our analysis of it, and just go, yeah, do we think that's what we want to see on the site, commercial, residential, as a principle, or do we have other ideas we like? And then we would go back out to the community and go, well, here's the refined uses. We've narrowed this down somehow, and go, what scope and scale would you like to see? If it is those uses, do you want it all residential? Do you want it all commercial? Do you want it mixed? Do you want, and sorry, I forgot to say, through this process, we've identified infrastructure use in terms of stormwater rain runoff from the stream and the rain garden there, but the 3 waters people would like. We've shown that indicatively on the plan as well. And then we would go back out to the community and go, well, that's what we think are the best options. What do you think the scope and scale would look like? You know, multi-location, do you really want it all as, do you want it all as residential? Do you want it all as community, as commercial? And then I suppose there's always the opportunity for other uses, but I think we'd need to bear in mind we're in a process where we try to narrow this down. And then we would come back with that community feedback again. And in that second report, we would say, well, here's what the community thinks, whatever it is. And then we would, in that report, talk to you about delivery options. And that would be whether you tender it, whether you just sell it, put encumbrances in place, those sort of things. There'll be a whole mix of delivery options we could talk to you about there. So this isn't about delivery, this isn't about specifically doing something. It's about narrowing down our next set of engagement with the community. So it's not a blank piece of paper, whereas the first one was just a blank piece of paper. So I think that sort of covers off where we're at. I didn't follow my script very well. So what we need from you today, I'll cover that off. So we need some direction or agreement from you on what the best potential future uses for the land are that we could take out for further engagement with the community. So we need direction on refinement, and we need agreement that you still like the process we set out at the beginning, and the process we're still in. So that is another round of engagement on a more refined use basis. Bring that back, and when we bring that back with delivery mechanisms and options. So yeah, I think we can open up to questions from them.
Yeah, great.
Well, I've got actually, I'm not allowed to speak to this, and I'm questions only.
Have a little think about that, and then we'll come back to you. You're just asking about conflict of interest.
No, not at all. No. Okay. Well, my concern is that we're hearing, we're hearing some real concerns. Like there is a one-off opportunity, a very unique opportunity to get this right, and a strong community. No.
Well, I'm just alerting
It's
the chair.
just-
I have a
yeah.
question. That's
It's all right, sorry, we're just chatting. You go ahead.
No, I just, I think, good on you for starting the conversation. So you're saying that it goes back, there's obviously a very clear concern about what all 3 of these look like. Putting traffic through there is a huge concern. There's a unique space, it's right in the centre of town, and getting it right is essential. So you've said the process to go back to now, but we need to, you're asking us to pick one of these options as a starting point for that conversation, or can you start again from scratch?
No, we're definitely not asking you to pick one of these options. Don't get hung up on the plans. The plans were indicative to give you an idea of sort of scope, scale and size. What we're asking you to do is give us direction on, we brought to you and said, look, we've been through this process, we've analysed it, talk to the community. It seems to be the most worthwhile and practical ideas what the community wants is residential and commercial. And acknowledge that some members of the community want different things, because nearly everybody wants the same thing. All we're asking for is direction to go out and consult on uses. We're not asking you to sign off on a plan. Like they're just to give visual people an idea of what it could look like.
Well, I don't know if this is conflict of interest or not. I grew up here, right here, and my mother was the first curator of the museum. I grew up in a museum. I don't know if there's a conflict of interest or not, but I just know that's a unique site, a historical site. It needs a strong, and I'm adherent for strong community use. I know to make it financially viable, you might need to put some sort of property in there, but I don't see adding any more commercial It's something that I'm hearing from my constituents. So, is that right?
Good as well.
Okay. But I want the communication. This is one of my priorities, to see something done good with it. We talked about the customs house was planned, and the long-term plan to move from where it is now onto that site. But where does that go? What does that mean? What does it mean for the possibility of getting Ackro's first fire engine into a class display case, right, as part of an entranceway to a community space? And what would that look like? I mean, this has been one of my personal priorities coming back to this board this year to try and see this through. It was a targeted rated purchase, that property. I don't know if everyone here understands the full history. It was a targeted rated, so people pay extra. And I've called it the community property, not council land, community land. So I think that understanding of history, originally there was a strong push to have that site purchased for an extension of the museum. And that was a lot of the driver, 35 years back, to purchase that site when it became available. And the targeted rate was done by the ratepayers. So the ratepayers of Ackroa are the key stakeholders. And I would like to see a more concentrated engagement with them. There's a lot of people that put on them, the visitors and whatever, commenting on it. But this is a community thing. I don't want it to stop, but I want it to be right. And I want it to, if I'm going to be part of this legacy, I want it to be right. Thank you.
Okay, let's go. Tyrone, and then Peggy.
Yeah, so actually, could I just double check just on process as well? Like, I know Liz, so my esteemed colleague here cannot ask questions of staff, just, okay, cool, thanks. So to what extent, Angus, so thank you for this report.
Thanks very much.
And so, I mean, to what extent can we say that, like, all options are still very much on the table, even, you know, after today?
We're here to take guidance and direction from you on the next phase of consultation. So this board can decide whatever they want to give us direction and guidance. So if you want to open it up or just add uses to the advice we've given, that is fine, and we can go out and consult on that.
Right.
So the future directions entirely up to you. I think you've got to think there's two decisions you need to make here today. One is, what are the future uses you would like to narrow it down to? Because I'd suggest we start it like this. We tried to narrow it down. It would probably not be ideal to go back and consult again, because that would just look like what we've done. So it'd be nice to narrow it down and keep moving forward rather than take a step backwards. But you're not limited to the two we presented, and that's come from the community. So that's your first decision. And your second one is, are you still happy with the process going forward to help you make any decision? Is it still moving you forward? Those are really the two things to focus on today.
Right, thank you. And sorry, and so you've indicated, like, the analysis of the feedback shown, you know, residential and commercial, and that covers quite a lot of things. What it precludes, I guess, is a community. It may preclude a community use, but it does not necessarily, because we can give direction, right? As I understand it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that rules out turning it into, you know, an aluminium smelter, for example, or whatever. You know, like, just like we're ruling things out. You know. Yeah. So you're saying that the indication is that the analysis says community or residential uses that's preferred through the feedback. Well, that's your analysis of it. But you know, we can still go, you know, wherever we want based on what we perceive and the community feedback to be. Good. I still have some more questions, if that's all right, but I'm happy to.
I think that should be discussed long and hard. Get it right
Oh,
about
it's huge. Yeah, we can't, you know, definitely, that's why we've got to take our time.
Tyrone, and then we'll go to Peggy.
So the site obviously has quite significant, a big significance to mana whenua. To what extent does that constrain any future development of the site? Because I mean, it could completely constrain it. That's a possibility because we don't know what we don't know at this stage. Would that be reasonable?
Well, now I'm not too sure what you're alluding to. We've engaged.
Well, I said the sites of cultural significance to Ngāi presumably to.
Yeah, I don't think we said of cultural significance, but it is of significance to the.
Is of cultural that falls within.
Fringe.
Yeah, it certainly is of interest to.
Management.
Yeah, certainly of interest to Rākaihautū. And we've engaged with them and we had a meeting with Ngāi and Rākaihautū last week, just to let them know about the process we're in. You're aware they presented a bit of a proposal for what they would like to do for site. So at some stage when we get further down the delivery end of delivering an outcome, once you've decided what the outcome is, you will, and we'll continue to engage with them, but I think you could envisage that they would want to be in that discussion at the end as well, whether they think their delivery partner or not. So I think that's where their interest lies from our conversations with them. But they're part of the community that want to produce an outcome for the site, and I think they'd also like to maybe be part of that delivery as well. But that's a future decision and discussion as we move through. So I think that's where their interests lie on our conversations.
Okay, thank you. I've got more, but I don't want to dominate. I mean, I'll let you know if he's.
Yeah, happens like that, or maybe you go.
Yeah.
Oh God, now I've lost my train of thought. So there was mention through one of the deputations today about the idea of a design competition, for example. So what are your thoughts just on that? Is that something that the council have engaged in?
It is. Well, I've seen design competitions happen. My personal view is they don't particularly work in terms of delivering something because you get great ideas and people like those outcomes and ideas, but they lack practicality and lack deliverability. And that's what we're trying to do is work through a process and narrowing it down to something that can be delivered. So design competitions are great, but I think that's potentially an unproductive use of everybody's time and resources because you might get something that looks great, but nobody's ever going to deliver. And also I think it creates false expectations as we try to manage expectations as we move through this process.
It also doesn't preclude people from submitting as part of the next phase of consultation.
Yeah.
We've obviously got on our website supported information. People can upload whatever they want, including design plans if they'd like. That's supplementary information as part of submissions.
So I just thank you for presenting. Just I think a couple of things that's raised here is we've kind of heard this for a while, and then today we hear some big concerns, but we're trying to get into phase 2. How do we kind of meet some middle ground here now that you've done this survey, and then how do we include the real concerns of can it kind of fit into phase 2 of moving forward? But all moving forward more in a same page rather than coming back to this and saying, we'll cover all the options. And something that Nigel just raised about it's a community space and with ratepayers, going into kind of raising funds into this space here. Have we consulted more with the local residents or the long-term residents of Akaroa into this plan rather than kind of putting it out there saying, what do you think? And in the markets and stuff. And I think that really then comes down to the heart of the community. And I don't know whether you put a flyer into each letterbox of people that actually live here and then people that kind of come and go in the summer. And how that would fit into phase 2.
So I'll address the first issue and then I hand over to Sam to address the consultation and engagement question. Look, I think as a community that's sitting here today and having heard the deputations and read the report, you need to assess in your minds what the concerns are and whether they need to be addressed and how they need to be addressed. So if you think that the site needs a stronger community emphasis, then you give us some direction on that. We can include that in the phase 2 consultation. If you think it's too premature to make a decision on the site because of coastal hazard adaptation requirements and that you want to wait for that planning to occur, then that's also the decision you can make to address that issue. So you need to understand the concerns and you can direct us around those concerns. So
Bit off to answer the second part of the question. This was a very targeted engagement towards Akaroa. It wasn't broadcast widely in the city, for instance. So we were here in person.
Yeah.
I was here at least 4 times, I think it was, having conversations on the ground. I can confirm that at least 60 of the people that provided feedback are living in Akaroa. And some of those were also, like the other 40, some of those were also from nearby bays. It's not necessarily, split versus the city versus Akaroa. It's quite residential, if you will.
The Akaroa residence is like 800 to 1400 in the summer, or people that come and go. So in some ways, there's like you've got your community there, 100 as opposed to 800, reaching.
If you compare it to our other consultations in the city, it's actually quite a high proportion that we've heard from. We obviously we can't print and put something in everyone's letterbox, but we try almost every other tactic that we can think of to support the community.
Nigel, and then back to Tyrone.
Yeah, just a couple of things, just pulling out some of the history. This has gone on, this was purchased for community use for the target rate. I think the community use factor has to be brought in. How much of this decision or these ideas that you put there are based on the commercial viability of getting the money? It's all about the money at the end, isn't it? Who pays for it? I think that site's worth about 1.7 on RV or something. Well, I just wondered how much of that thinking was driven around that, and what would it look like going forward for the community if you were to go to that next stage of consultation. I speak to people get really excited about it. If that was a piece of land, like 35 years, it's been battered around. We've come to this scenarios. It's been kicked out all too hard, park it up. Let's use it as a rubbish tip. This is put waste on it. It's a terrible, it's an embarrassment if you walk out of that then. A real embarrassment for this town. And if it was a cathedral spire, you wouldn't hesitate to pave it or do something to make it into a nice community space. And if putting some housing in there, I know we need affordable housing over here, and it's almost an oxymoron, I understand that too. But that also, the money, you talked about the money coming from this, so the sale and development, with that going back into the community. Could you tell me what that would look like? I mean, the butcher's shop is an absolute state of disrepair, and there's leaks, it needs a re-roof, it's rewiring. That was a private leasing property, it wouldn't be allowed to be pulled out. So, but we need to save it, it is vital for this town. So anyway, that's all I've got to say at this stage. So there's a question in there about money.
Sort of did pick up on a couple of questions.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
turn a couple of
Thank
those.
you for your tolerance on that.
I'll turn a couple of those things into questions, I'd say. Look, we're all here because we want to see something happen with the site. And we've sweated the asset. There's no doubt about that. You know, that building needs something done to it. Needs either some significant maintenance or repair. There's only a nominal amount of budget for that. But none of that's going to happen unless least there's a future use decision for the site.
Mm.
You know, in making that, we'd have to decide whether it's end of life and we build something new that can facilitate the butcher shop or not. And the feedback is quite strongly that they want the butcher shop to remain, so we need to acknowledge and understand that. Or, you know, we spend a lot of money on refurb. So that's where we're at with that asset. We've said nothing in this report or our previous meetings about financial return from this property. This project has been entirely focused on use and getting a decision that sees that site better utilised than it is. There was no budget and the council has no long-term plan or budget that has revenue coming from that site. And nothing we've put in front of you has financial return from that site in the background of it. It's not a consideration we've even thought about. Financial viability in that will be something that we'll all have to grapple with and discuss when we get to delivery options. So when we get down to, hey, this is what we'd like to achieve with the site, how do we achieve it? And then when we get proposals and that, we'd have to decide whether they're viable, they stack up with the market. In terms of community uses of that, likewise, the council has nothing in its long-term plan for delivering a community use or outcome on that site, whatever that is. And I think that's something you need to turn your mind to as well. If you want a community use or outcome, what does that look like? And if you'd like the council to deliver that, then that has to become a long-term plan discussion. And you need to get buy-in to establish a budget to deliver that. Yep. So all the financial aspects of things that come after what you want to do with the site.
Thank you.
Does that sort of feel?
Yeah, it does, but I'm also concerned that I don't want it to die in the water. I want to get the right outcome. 35 years ago, they bought this and said they were buying it for the future generation. That's future generations here.
We had that discussion in the car coming over. Look, we started this process for exactly that reason. We all wanted to be brought into a process that took us somewhere and made a decision.
Thank you.
That's why we're all hopefully here. You know, I don't want to be talking about this site in 5 years' time.
I'll be dead.
Well, I probably won't be people raining.
We'll make the wrong decision, that might be a bit early too.
We'll just keep going. I think we're making good progress, but I know Tara's got a few more questions than Gillian and Ryan. So Ryan's next actually. She looked at me before. Is that still a question you have?
I suppose so. I mean, in terms of community buy-in, that's most of the budget. So what can happen outside of what you've already done? You've spoken about not being able to write individual bills. We know who the ratepayers are. Can you email the ratepayers or the survey? I mean, what does that look like? And thinking about climate change, the coastal hazards adaptation planning, we don't know where that's going to go in terms of funding. We don't know the direction of our current government. Is that going to be a priority that's taking some years to do? Will that have an impact potentially in terms of sea level rise? I mean, what does that look like?
I can probably only partly answer that because we did have a discussion with that climate adaptation people. So the council's recently approved the first adaptation plan, which covered off Littleton and Port Levy. And that team are now developing advice to inform decisions about where adaptation planning will next be undertaken. And they will be engaging with the community boards and council over that in the next few months. So
that's what we've been leveraging for, is trying to get some progress about where we prioritise that next and hopefully moving around.
Yeah, and that team's dealing across the whole city. So they're going to be talking about Everett and South Shore and Sumner and those areas as well. So they'll be coming to talk to you, and you need to, you know, if you want Hakaroa to be front and centre, you'll have to lobby for that and present a good case and convince them why that is. That team can only do a limited amount of work, so they need to prioritise it. So you'll be able to, in the next couple of months, have a dialogue with them and advocate for prioritisation of areas within the peninsula. That's what you want. And hopefully they'll give you a better understanding of what they're working through.
And so the risk of waiting for that potential is that this, state max, I suppose. I understand you want to move into phase two, that greater refinement that you want to do, bringing the community more to have more of the community voice. I can't speak on behalf of the community, whether or not that would be an option to move towards. But in terms of kind of a next stage of getting that buy-in, do you see that as being something that would move it forward now?
I think if you want to, that's what comes to me, but if you're going to go, we're not going to do anything with BP meats, and we don't want to make decisions on that. We don't want to carry through the process until we resolve where we stand with coastal headers and adaptation. You might be looking at a long period of time. Years, you might suggest.
Next year,
It's a vexed issue, and I don't think you're going to get any nice clean solutions from it that will help you make a decision on that side. But if you think it's an issue you do want, then that's the decision you get to make today. And that could be, okay, we carry on, and we know that's probably one in the background, or hey, we want to integrate a decision on that side with coastal hazard adaptation. So let's wait for that to play out before we do any more work on this. Or it could be that you want to, make some strong decisions and go, well, we want to keep that site to relocate facilities. So I don't know. It's quite a complex issue. And my fear is you would bog down the decision on that side. That would be my fear.
I also just want to respond to the part of your question about contacting ratepayers. It's not something we've done on our consultations before, but also very happy to have ideas. If you've got ideas for engaging the community as part of this next phase, like we're all ears, we're really trying as many different things in our toolbox as we can.
So, sorry, I'm just jumping in here, but would a letterbox drop be part of that? Could we put that?
I can obviously ask the team. What council's got a digital first policy, so it really limits us from that kind of mass letter drop. We go into the Aotearoa Mail, we put in a couple of adverts, we put as many posters up as we can, we come along to the markets. I can have a chat to the team, but I don't think it would be widely supported in terms of our digital first policy. Using ratepayer details to email them on consultations is also, I'm not sure. I think it's
I think also from my perspective, having looked at rating details of properties, not a lot of them have email addresses. In fact, not a lot of them even have phone numbers. It's just a postal address. So I wouldn't imagine the reach would be any greater even if we had a handful of email addresses. I wouldn't think we'd have very many on the rating database. Yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Right. Keep your thoughts, team, elected members. We're going to adjourn for 5 minutes. It's not sure why. Just as a matter come through. So adjourn for 5 minutes. Hold your thoughts. We will come back and restart this in 5 minutes time. Thank you. Live again, we're just gathering back and thank you so much for your patience. Sometimes days like today, you have it all planned and it's all beautiful and then it kind of goes out the window because you actually want to hear from everybody that you can. And so we have had a request for a deputation by equipment that went to the wrong place. And we think it would be good for them to be at the table today and be able to speak. So we are just going to get Ava, thank you, Ava, up to the front to have a chat. So we're going to go back to where we were before deputations by appointment. Thank you, staff, for understanding. Thank you, Angus. Sorry about this. I really appreciate your patience. Yeah, because we want to hear from everybody that wants to say something today. So we will honour that. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for letting me speak. I feel it's a bit last minute. But yeah, just
Where are you associated?
oh, sorry.
with?
So yeah, Regenerate. It's a little subcommittee of Friends of East Peninsula group. There's about 25 of us in a chat group, and this morning everyone was like reading the Akaroa Mail and going, "Oh my God, there's that thing about the BP meat site. Someone needs to speak." And I was working in the office, so our office is close and I'm down here last minute speaking. But we've been, you know, really thinking about community hub. And, you know, as you know, the last thing I shared a piece of the paper with you. Well, we've got more paper to share with you. But we would really love this area to be for the community, you know, for the next generation. Hopefully this generation, as Nigel was saying. But as a group, we've come up with a lot of ideas, and John Harding over there has kind of listened to a few ideas and like gone even with better ideas, which incorporates pretty much all of the things that people have submitted from, you know, having a community hub, cultural and historical area, almost like botanical garden type thing to help with tourism, place for the fire engine, historical artifacts. Community housing, everything can be done if we had innovative ideas. And maybe it's the matter of as well having a community meeting so we could actually get everyone together, like what Kerry organised with Heartlands, with the cruise ship thing. We all go to the Gaiety and we can all like have, you know, bits of paper and talk about it as a community, because I feel like a lot of people don't know about this. And I mean, all, you know, the Regenerate group, you know, everyone's working today, they would love to be here. And if we'd known, we probably should have sent separate submissions, because if you have the word community and everyone's like, oh, look at how many times the word community was written. Well, we only put in one submission and we're like 25 people. So, I mean, things like that. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Kind of stop, hold our horses. What Marie said, put the horse before the cart as well, because that seemed really important, what she's talking about. But then, yeah, make this for the community, because the big thing that we wouldn't want to see is like some big commercial, you know, development area happening, and it doesn't have anything to do with our community. But there's some really amazing ideas that we've got, so you can pass that around if you guys want.
So what's the like basic want from that space? If
Well,
you can sum it up.
Well, the basic want from that space is a community hub.
Yeah.
But that
Well, what could it look like?
well,
Essentially,
we've got it. John's done an amazing design, and he's talked to all the locals. You know, he's gone to the common, he's gone to the museum, and this design goes from the creek behind the common right through to the museum, using all that space, even more than the proposed site, which the community seems pretty picky about, making an awesome walkway through there. So from kids' play area to this actually started because attached to the butcher building is the Community Arts Council. We're using the area, that little building at the back, as an art gallery, a community art gallery, and we have about 4 exhibitions per year, and one's going to be coming up very soon. And we were like, oh man, this kind of needs a bit of work done, and we're hanging out in there with Marie Rhodes, that's fundraising for the hospital with her knitting. We've also got the toy library in this, and then there's the op shop there as well that raises money for the community. That is already a community hub. It's just kind of falling apart. So if we could like extend it, because everyone's like, oh, we'd love to have community gardens and everything. And we've just been, you know, doing this slowly on our own, like, you know, using this space. And yeah, we'd just love it to use it in a better way. with really cool, innovative ideas. But if something does go forward, you know, we want to see regenerative architecture. We don't want to see like, you know, like very unsustainable development going on, and using tiny space ideas as well. And you know, amazing tiny houses nowadays. It's like insane what you can jam pack into an area with good design. So there's just things about that. I mean, maybe we need to watch a few more cool YouTube videos on cool regenerative spaces. But yeah, I think cool things can be done. We don't have to put our heads in just a box of like one thing. It can be a holistic approach.
What would be really helpful for me, and probably the board, would be understanding the need as well. So what you've already working with and where you're finding the hurdles are, like where the frustration is coming from, you don't have space, or it's too small, or it's run down, or you know, I would find it particularly helpful.
Well, there's a lot of, because I'm in a few different groups, so the Arts Council, there's a massive need for workshop spaces, because they run a lot of workshops, artistic things, music space for the ukulele groups to practice, easily arty for like the kids to do their art classes. There's all that kind of artistic side of Rākaihautū, and Rākaihautū has a big artistic community, from even running workshops for readers and writers, things like that. So there is that big need. The Arts Council needs space, Toy Library needs space, and then of course Regenerate Group, we want to see like some really nice outdoor spaces, and of course ecotourism as well. We want to see things that attract people to the town. So it's just this huge holistic idea of a community space. Like it goes in all different directions really. But it can be used.
Sorry, Marie, sorry, this is just for Ava.
I'm part of Regenerate.
Yeah, she is part of Regenerate.
Okay, so we'll just have questions right now. Has anybody got questions? Yeah, Gillian. Marie?
Thank you. Just a question. So, I mean, I could probably think about what the term regenerative space means myself. I could probably come up with some definition, but I'm wondering how you define that.
Well, it's something that all the community can use, and it can fill the needs of everything we can possibly need. So if you have a look at this, it fills the need for it fills the need for retail, like it fills the need for community housing, art council gallery space, historic and cultural walkways, botanical gardens, things to attract tourism. It just everything. It keeps the butcher, it connects like all this whole area right through to the museum. It's just like, you know, this is done by John, but I mean, if we had like architects, you know, looking at a plan like this, or maybe just more going back to the drawing board, going to the community, going to the Gaiety, and doing what you know, Heartlands did with talking about that cruise ship issue, when we all got around tables and we discussed this, so the community can have more input, because I think that's what we need. Or, you know, those guys saying like, how do we, you know, put ourselves out to the community, and it's like digital, just sit outside the Foursquare, most of the community will come, and if you had something like this, and some, I don't know, volunteer or someone out there saying, hey guys, what do you reckon? Give me some ideas, give me some feedback. You're going to get more locals going to the Foursquare and talking face to face than you are putting stuff in mailboxes.
Only up to 10 o'clock, because then all the townies come over.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways to communicate with us.
At what point do you move forward? At what consensus do we need to be able to move forward?
I think once, like, I think after we could have a really good community meeting, like say in the Gaiety, and then really look at those ideas and like really think about those, and then you can start counting how many people mention the community and this and that, because I mean there weren't that many submissions, but you know, also gathering all that information as well, and it's, you know, like what Marie is doing is really important. I think that may be a priority. This may have to be on hold, you know, like till you figure that out, you know, to see level rise and everything. I mean, it's no point building something if it's all going to get destroyed and
Well,
inundated.
they're all gonna get destroyed at the same time.
Yeah, so.
Once the water gets to there, it's gonna be a big.
Yeah, so we need to think about that as well, because I mean, I didn't really know about that until just now. So I think yeah, on hold until we consult more people. We could arrange that.
Yeah, we've got time for one more question. Go to Rome.
Jenny's Cottage.
Yeah,
In the submission, the main submission, it said that Regenerate didn't support it. But then I'm reading the bigger submission.
Yeah.
And it says they do support it. So what's the kind
Well,
of, what's the vibe?
well, the vibe was, oh, it would be so cool to move it. To use it for the Community Arts Council as a community hub over there, and then add the fire engine thing on the back. Yeah, we had some cool ideas for it, but then we were like, oh my God, it's gonna cost 500,000 just to move it, and we were like, it wouldn't.
To fix it up, sorry.
Oh, fix it up. Oh, to fix
You're
it
not gonna
up.
leave it.
Yeah, so we were like, oh, okay, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that was the vibe.
Okay.
That's good to know. All right, thank you very much, Ed. Really appreciate it.
Sorry, that was a bit of a.
But guys, we can work it out. We've got it sorted. So I'm just gonna rewind. Imagine we're going back in time and we're gonna go back to where we were in the discussion. So if Angus and Sam and the team can come back to the table, we'll try and pick it up where we were. I'm hoping everybody's remembered their questions, where we were at. And we'll bring it into the hub. I am remembering that, Gillian, were you? Do you have a
Yeah,
question?
I did.
And then Tyrone, and probably back to Morgan.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, so one of my, so I had two questions really. One was about this, the climate hesitations, as it plan, but that I think was mostly covered by Luana's question.
Did you get your question answered, Luana, completely? You did? Okay, so sorry, Gillian. Carry on.
Yeah, I think everything was covered there. So my other question was about the percentages and things which was Marie Haley talked about at the beginning. It was too fast and for us to make kind of conclusions about yes, that's right or wrong or makes a difference, whatever. I'm not sure it may be the same for you. And might need some time, but do you have, you can respond to that? Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond. It sounds like there's been some confusion in the report with the amount of numbers that are put next to certain themes. So just to be very clear, where it says, you know, the majority of respondents, 79, mentioned multiple use types in their feedback, that means 79 of the 100.
Can you refer us to which page or whatever you were talking about?
Yeah, so page 87.
Yeah, it's not on my,
I'm on the full agenda.
not full agenda, yeah.
I'll also just go to page 88. So where we have many respondents mentioned, back to 87. Many respondents mentioned community use, 60. That's 60 respondents who mentioned community use.
So that's 7.19.
Yeah, so many also mentioned residential use, 39. That's 39 respondents. So we haven't put percentages in this report on purpose because we're just taking how many of the total respondents mentioned each type of theme. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So the amount, the numbers, the raw numbers are the amount of respondents who mentioned that theme. So many respondents mentioned residential use, 39, that's 39 people.
Yeah.
And for instance, below it says seasonal worker accommodation, 22, that's 22 people overall.
Overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to go over those details because they're actually quite important and they can, you know, you need to get clarification on it. So thank you for understanding that.
So my follow-up bit really is, so do your numbers differ from what Marie was mentioning? And if they do, does that make any difference to your conclusions?
No. So what
to number
we
one.
suspect, what we've reported is, we're confident in what advice we're giving you. We had 100 respondents, and those respondents in the numbers we've given you mentioned those themes. We think the 280 came from an add up of the themes on a spreadsheet,
Okay.
which, so one respondent might have said, I want to see residential, I want to see commercial, I want to see, and if you add up all the lines, you'll get 280, but that only came from 100 people.
Yeah,
100 people said multiple things.
we haven't referenced
So,
that, so
we
we
haven't-
haven't got confused about
Yeah,
exactly where that's come from.
All right.
so that's why Sam's put it in the context of numbers and not percentages, because then if you start applying percentages, then you end up with sort of a penis outcome like was presented. So.
That's clarified that, thank you. Did that answer your question, Gillian?
Yes, so when you said a perverse outcome, like what was presented?
Well, in terms of percentages, because if
Yeah.
you start applying, so you go 60 people said they want community use, 60 out of 100. But if we said those 100 people presented 280 things, that 60 as a percentage of 280 comes out to quite something quite different, something quite small.
Yeah.
So instead of like maybe being 50%, it becomes 25%. It's not the way to look at it. What we're saying is these people representing the community. So when 100 people represent the community and they see these things, that's how we're presenting
And
it.
it's confusing because a lot of them overlap in their feedback, so they have multiple themes, which is why we've just kept it to those raw numbers as opposed to percentages.
Yeah. So if you looked and said, 50 people out of 100 said they want community use, and you tried to turn that into a percentage and you said, 50% of the community want community use. But then you looked at it and said, I'm going to apply those 50 comments to 280 comments.
Yeah.
It turns out to be only 10% of the community want community use.
Right.
So it gives you a distorted picture.
Yeah.
So
this is the clearest way to provide what the actual feedback on the ground by the people who gave it in a way that was fair.
we're trying to present, say, 100 people wanted to represent the community on this issue and took the time and energy to do that, and these were the themes they presented. 60 of those 100 were the community use or whatever. Don't focus on the numbers because I'm pulling them
Yeah.
hypothetical, but yeah. Does that explain it?
Yeah.
I think Tyrone had a few he hadn't finished on, and then we'll go to Nigel.
Oh, yeah, I'll try and rattle through them as quickly as I can. So it's reasonably well established in Peninsula or Greater in Christchurch of taking a council for a public asset and not giving it, but selling it to a community organisation for a nominal fee, where they then get organised and do a thing in terms of developing that asset, and that's becoming reasonably well. We call that around the council table informally doing a Governor's Bay jetty. And
Understand it.
but so what kind of scope is there for something like that with something like this?
Well, that would be a council decision guided by the community board. We have done a few. I wouldn't say it's common, but we have done a few. Things like the Horley Library that we gave it to the Horley Community Trust, the Hallsville Library that we gifted to the trust there. They are generally they're established groups that have a track record, both in terms of ability, experience, and maybe a little bit of financial backing or enough financial backing to get something going. And we would evaluate their proposal for the site based on that. There's scope for it. When I talk about we get to the end of this process, we talk about delivery, you can look at proposals like that for delivery as well. Right. But they're generally existing established groups that have a track record and experience in delivering X, Y, Z. So the task for you is what does X, Y, Z look like? And I think Lynn summed it up really nicely before. She said something like, what do you want the site to look like for you?
Thank you. And so, I mean, just in terms of getting back to like the sort of the numbers and that, like from the analysis. So we had we've had deputations from the Civic Trust today. We've had the Rākaihautū representatives and ratepayers. Bridget, yeah, well, Friends of Banks Peninsula, effectively. We had a deputation from the Pātaka, probably not, but we probably could. So they represent, yeah, you know, like, so they represent actually, like, not just, I mean, quite a few people. You know, there's so to what level, you know, in terms of 100, what sort of weighting do we get to sort of those kinds of submissions?
I can't advise you on that. I mean, you've had 100 people from your community give you feedback. You've had some deputations from groups that represent people. I don't know what the volume or numbers of those are. You need to weigh that up in your own minds. Decide, because all this feedback is guiding you in terms of what do you want that site to look like in the future. So you just need to take that feedback and weigh it up in your own minds. And you're representing the community, so you're best placed to be able to do that. We're not. We just presenting with the information and evidence and trying
The only additional weighting that we do is summarise all organisation or business submissions as well as conversations as part of the report. And we have done that on pages, I believe, pages 85 and 86, which is why it's positioned before the wider community feedback. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, no, good. That's fair. I mean, because I guess what we're getting here is like, I mean, we've obviously got quite a restricted depth of feeling around this issue, right? Like it is you know, it's a very, very tight-knit community, a very strident community that knows, you know, and there's a great understanding of the site and what it means to the community. So I sort of feel like there's a step here where we kind of take all this sort of energy and knowledge and understanding and be able to sort of like tease out what we've learned here a little bit through, I don't know, through perhaps a town hall or something along those lines, which is not uncommon here, right? I mean, you can get 300 people turning up at the grounds on a Tuesday night in June, if it's something that matters enough, and to be able to discuss that. So what's our capacity to be able to take that step?
The future engagement process within reason, within practicality, can look like anything you want. So if you want a community meeting or a town hall meeting, we would help you.
Yeah.
That's our role to guide you through the process. That's achievable.
That's absolutely achievable.
Achievable. We've done that before. So
what I would advise is we don't want to start back to square one.
Yeah.
Where it just
I don't think this would be square one. No, I think this would be a good.
So having some kind of visual aids potentially for different use options, and obviously that's what we're trying to achieve today. But it is useful for the community to be able to see something when they're providing feedback, and that's what we're trying to get guidance on, I suppose. Is that phase 2 of engagement and what that looks like. So
the phase 1.5 has been very, very.
Yeah, 1 exactly. Well said, Nigel.
Definitely got a reaction.
yeah, that's all part of community engagement, and you get diverse views. But it's you got to do exactly what you said, Tyrone. You got to distill that down and decide, you know, and take on the feedback and go, what do we want this site to look like in the future? And then if we can narrow that down, rather than, hey, here's a blank piece of paper, what do you want, which is where we were before. Here's some ideas. We've narrowed it down. Here's some ideas that is what we think represent the feedback we've had from the stuff we've presented from the deputations. And let's go out and consult on that. And if that consultation has a town hall meeting or two, or other such mechanisms will do that. Yeah.
Because, oh, sorry.
So I think we're getting to the point where you start wrapping up, but if you've got one more clarifying question, and maybe if there's an urgent one from the table.
Well, it was just another comment really, it's a question.
A question is a good thing.
It's a
right?
question. Yeah, we'll end with the question, mate, don't worry.
Question time.
And so around Jenny's Cottage, right, so like the feedback that we've got is, I was actually surprised that it seemed that more people said no to relocating than said yes, and that's fine, I take that on board. That was an opportunity to have a discussion around that. A lot of the ideas around why that would not be desirable tend to be around the cost of moving it. There is budget there is a budgeted cost to move that to somewhere. You know, looking for a home. It's obviously in a flooding area. So, what's the would there be an opportunity in a town hall setting to be able to tease that out a bit more as well, and to be able to have a discussion around, because I feel perhaps we haven't got a definitive view as you, because it's kind of slightly leaning towards no, but don't really know why.
Clarify the no to putting it in here.
Can we get some more clarification around what's desired in Jenny's Cottage?
Well, yeah, I've had some feedback. Your role here today is to scope what we go back to the community with. So if you want to do that, we can convince your colleagues that that's what you want to add that back into scope for future consultation or more consultation, then it's the decision you make and we'll manage that accordingly. So for you at the moment, everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Everything's on the table.
It's on the table.
Look at everything on the table. We need to
Your
talk about
opportunity.
everything on the table.
Yeah.
We need to make a motion out of everything that's on the table, and we need to vote on what everything's on the table.
Yeah, your opportunity is to see if you can narrow it down.
Yeah, that is the goal.
For future decisions.
Yeah. Nigel, last question before we.
I was going to make a motion.
Oh, please, yes. Yeah.
I think I would like to make a motion that we not accept any of the three proposals, and that we take the baseline, I guess, that was used by the regenerative deputation to a public meeting in the Gaiety to help refine the way forward. And that's my motion. Does that make any sense?
I'm just wondering if we should adjourn the meeting whilst the members draft an alternative motion, potentially. I don't know, I mean, it's just.
I don't know how.
I mean, because Nigel's just made a suggestion and that we probably write out the wording on it. That's what.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I've done their work and you.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know, I mean, if you can draft it.
And we have to
fine.
do some work today.
Yeah.
I don't want to get down the road any
No.
longer. Is that getting that down the road, Nigel?
Definitely
Is
not.
it kicking it down the road?
Decision.
Well, phase two.
Well, yeah, but I just want to, I don't want it to die.
Okay.
I'm kicking it down to the Gaiety, that's what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting.
Yes.
And we take the lovely work that's been done. I know that I've seen that plan before, and I've got a copy of it in my bag. And I know that's been before the Peninsula Forum, and I had very solid feedback, positive feedback from them as well, so. But I would like that discussion to carry on and understand that next step and use that as a foundation, not the, they're very antagonistic, the three that have come up. I keep coming back to the analogy that a committee designing a horse will lead up the camel. And I think we can do a lot better as a one-off charge, so.
Is there potential for one of those options, or, part of phase two to include that as part of a,
I don't know, I'd need staff advice on that or something.
Okay, all right.
So your job is to decide today what is in scope.
Yeah, because it could get.
So what you're saying, what Nigel is saying is he would like in scope something like the proposal that was put forward today. There might be other members who want pieces of the other options that you presented. So, you don't have to be either or. You can put a lot of.
That's what I'm wondering.
in a basket.
Yeah.
And It sounds from what you're saying, I mean, I'm someone, it sounds like you're wanting more community
Definitely.
space than just commercial and residential.
Yeah.
So it might be someone is saying, investigate, is saying that, and asking, you might want to ask for a board workshop on it, contribute to that process. As well as the public engagement, that is clear that we want.
But what we're really going into is phase two.
It's still phase
Yeah,
two
Phase two.
with those
with the
things that we are.
concerns today, yeah.
So do we need a motion on this, or we just change the proposed motion?
It's the officers recommendation on top of the board resolution.
Does everybody understand the phase two engagement? How we can contribute to maybe. The addition. Amendment, thank you, amendment. With an amendment. No? So first of all, we have to start on.
Yeah. Come on, then, take your farm.
That would be in there. So yes, we've got to follow that, so, oh gosh.
And phase two. Stop. Instruct staff. to take those which will certainly find So number four is when they talk about phase two, but with the scope and three things we talked about, going to the doors and new cottage.
Right, so first of all, before we talk about any potential amendments without predetermining anything, we would need to have a mover and a seconder
Okay.
to, am I understanding this correct? Receive and agree. So if before any amendments can be made to anything, or you could.
Or some motion.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So,
An entirely new motion or an amendment to something that has been.
It'll take some time to draft that up, I'd say.
Okay, so is that why we're talking about having a recess, okay? 10-minute adjournment, so that we can figure out our wordings to get this right. Okay,
So you something to look at.
thank you, team. Thank you for your patience, everybody. We're doing a bit of wordsmithing. And figure out how to incorporate all we've heard, move things forward. So that's our motion that elected members are going to have a little read and see how we feel about it. Giving people the space to process this. Space is a very important process. Any questions around this?
Does that mean comments as well, or just questions?
Oh, I'm being told about process, I'm being reminded about process. No.
We're not in the White House.
Okay, we'll see what we go with. Sorry, Gillian, what was yours?
I think that, can we?
Can we make comments around it?
Yes,
Yes, yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there something you wanted to add?
Well, I wondered, I would have thought it would be sensible to include, when it says and include a community hub, could also say and, because the staff have done lots of work on those concept plans.
Yes.
Can it say include those plans as well?
And potential.
Yeah.
Well, that will be the next phase, I guess, would it?
Yeah. So they can come forward.
So that's at a later date.
They can come
So the
forward.
plans are just rough ideas, they can still be included later, but this is not really to do with this decision today, because that.
Well, it was.
Oh, sorry,
Their option too.
I'm misunderstanding.
But, I mean, in the original recommendations, it was, they were included. So, in this, at the moment, scope to say include whatever we want. So it says here, include a community hub, but it could say include the concept plans 1 to 3 as presented by the staff.
Okay, well, it can include that, is that what we want to put?
Just.
I think it's good to ask clarifying question because there is a little bit of misunderstandings. I'm misunderstanding some things, so I need clarification. Yes, Tyrone.
Just on number 3, where it says agree that the best potential future use, I know this is really wordsmithing it, but like it's that the indicative from the initial consultation is around these things, and that needs to be teased out a bit more. So we haven't made a hard and fast
Would you like to
view on like what the best thing is.
Oh, okay, so Zara.
We need more community engagement to be able to understand what the best thing is.
Is that what you meaning? For example, this and that.
Because we've got a strong sense today that there's a lot of grey areas in there, and that you know what's indicated through the qualitative data is not, you know, does need to be teased out a little bit more, and then we haven't landed on the really best use of the site.
Do you want to take the word best out?
Yes.
Once again, it just cuts through.
That's fair.
Okay, good. Keep it simple. Thank you, Tara. I don't feel like we've answered your question, Gillian.
No,
What would you suggest? Are you
well, the word include could be, instead, it's like saying, as an example, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I said, given the work that the staff have done on concept plans, could we say another example is these concept plans, rather than just saying, at the moment we've said an example is a community hub.
Okay, so you'd like to put the words in there as an example, these.
Or
What does
include a
that
community
mean?
hub and the concept plans and activities is shown in the indicative concept plans 1 to 3. Yeah.
Does that tie us into anything? Is it excluding anything in regards to? Because I know we're trying to.
We're doing an alternative and we've pretty
No.
much done.
The word include means it could include these things,
Right.
but it can include heaps of other things as well.
Includes,
for example.
if you could give us the wording.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, well, someone's got to move it at some stage, right? So people get a mover. It's just,
I'm quite happy to
Those
move
are
it.
okay.
yeah,
As it is.
yeah.
I'm happy to move it as it is.
If we leave that out, what's the disadvantage?
Just to,
What's the disadvantage of leaving that out?
I think it just takes away any, well, it takes away from the work the staff have done, I suppose, in coming up with those ideas. So that's an option. We can basically not give much significance to those plans.
Okay.
But it doesn't exclude those plans from being.
No, it doesn't.
Phase twos, though, does it?
No, it just doesn't mention them.
No, and it could be that because of the discussion today, that staff may evolve those concept plans a little differently anyway. To include the hub or the feedback taken today, but I think.
I think, yeah, we can still acknowledge the great assistance it gave us in visualising the work that went into it. I'm not hearing it.
Do we need a second to continue the conversation?
I'll second it. Nigel's moving it. Well, Nigel says he's implied that he wants to move it.
But I need to accept it or not, so I think we need something to work with, so let's move forward and see what we can work with here. Okay, you're seconding this?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
If Nigel's moved it.
So now,
Okay, so
now,
now we're open for debate.
Oh, and possible
And
suggestions,
possible
changing it.
suggestion, we can still change it, yes.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
where it's at now. Otherwise, we're just like, it's.
well, all over the debate, I mean, there's a very clear feeling that the community want, I mean, it's at the heart of the town. The community, does need to be there and living and walking and talking there. The plans that sit there are very focused on commercial, and they're very focused on the possibility of having traffic going through there that would destroy forever the future use. So I think this opens the door enough to continue the conversation and get something that the community can buy into and enjoy and be a great space for tourists to embellish the regenerative tourism that is part of the destination management plan. I think that's all I've got to say about that.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Nigel.
Cool, thank you, Madam Chair. So look, I really want to thank staff's work on this. I think probably every time Angus comes out to Beams Peninsula, he knows he's going to get something pretty tricky. And so he knows the score, and I know that him and his team would have done a great deal of work on this, and I thank them for that. I think that what we've seen today is a very strong feedback on the desire to see the land to have some level of community use. I think that's really, really important. It's an incredibly important site to the people of Rākaihautū. I think we've picked up on that today. We want to make sure that we just give everybody the best opportunity that they can get to be able to engage in the process and to be able to help that space become, you know, something that everyone can be proud of and a part of the community, and that's what we're trying to achieve. It can be a little bit sort of pedantic and finicky to try and get to this level with a staff with emotion. I think that what we've landed on is good. It just enables us to get to the next stage where we'll be able to get people to sort of talk about it, get that town hall setting, get 300 people into the gaiety, having a good crack at it and be able to tease that out a bit better. I don't think that we've lost anything from what the staff recommendation is. I think that we've got a really good platform to work from now, and I think that we can just, we can move forward. We wanted to get some additional go forward today. I think we've got that, and we've kind of got a reasonably serious to do need to do next. That's.
Oh, yes, we definitely need to move forward. I feel like we took this on knowing as a community board that it was not going to be easy, but the option of leaving it just to sit didn't feel right for us. So we are going, yeah, I just feel that it's good to move forward. We haven't mentioned Dew Cottage in this.
Is that the scope that we discussed, or is it the next step?
I don't think that's part of this submission,
No,
and therefore it's still on the table.
Yeah.
So that's
That's not preclude Dew Cottage at all.
Okay, so does not preclude that this is still part of it, it's still on the table.
Yeah.
that seems like that could work, okay, great. So unless anybody else has got anything else to say, we'll move forward.
Sorry, are you saying that staff are still including the cottage?
It is, yes.
So there's no community restriction.
We need to have it in there, okay.
Comma, after community hub, including community hub and
Discussion.
the
Confirmation around youth cottage in project. Oh, no,
new cottage being cited.
cited, either yes or no, yes or no.
I agree with that if Nigel agrees with it.
I have a few issues.
No, no.
And we had done.
I have a few issues because there's a very clear feeling that no one wants the ratepayers' money spent fixing that up. So I guess if it were to move, it would have to go under.
Sorry, at the same time.
It would have to go under some, it would have to be sort of gifted in some way to some society to fix it up. Because I don't think there's a desire for rate, and that didn't come up in the consultation process. I mean, yes, everyone would love it, everyone wants $7,000 taxpayer, ratepayers' money to go for that. And then where does that go for the ongoing maintenance and use of that? It won't be easier for residential use, I wouldn't have thought, it has to be near the street frontage. So there are complications in this conversation. So I don't know.
Well, some kind
Well,
of
that's
decision
still-
needs to be made about it. So it needs to be.
It's still up for grabs, isn't it? Let's have a conversation about it.
Well, I think that
I'm not
conversation
sure.
needs to be enlarged, not a yes or no conversation.
Oh,
That's it.
From the outcome of this consultation.
oh, okay.
Okay.
We had the feedback. So you just had to decide whether you wanted to do this or you had based on the outcome of the feedback, this consultation that we've just had.
I think it's,
I think it's been bounced around a hell of a lot for a decade or so. And there's been very clear feeling that it's a nice to have, but money doesn't need to be spent on it. It's money use.
How about we propose we take this out of this and we make a decision
Sorry.
at a later
what I
date?
would say to my colleague here is that we can, there's a strong feeling, we can get confirmation around that
Yeah.
through this discussion, because, yeah,
So you're leaving it at it's good?
I mean, you're the mover, so, but I would, suggest that would be a good thing. As the second. Because it's not going to cost any, it doesn't cost any money, but it enables the conversation.
Might fall down while we're waiting. So. All right.
Sorry.
I'm happy.
I think you should just, that line is about future land use, which is mixed use and a community hub.
Okay.
So taking it out.
So as suggested before, we'll just keep that simple to include the community hub. And we will talk about you trying to delay the date when it comes up.
Thank you.
It does, the wording, yeah. I don't like the confirmation. In fact, that is it. I think confirmation is not a great word. So how does everybody feel about that?
That's
Taking that
fine.
out.
It's going to come.
Keep it simple?
Conversation. Yeah.
Especially if we've got an opportunity to talk about it later at another meeting. We've got the information from the community.
On today, they're waiting for this decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angus.
Won't that be dependent on the outcome of this?
That's what I'm asking.
Because I would suggest, what's going to happen is Maria and Anstey will be looking at this and going, if you decide new cottage is not done to that site, she will present you with the options of what to do with that. But if this option still stays on the table, then that's the convenient, easy option for you cottage.
Okay.
So if you,
But it's still separate to the.
Still separate from number three.
it's quite circular, you cottage will be quite circular if you leave it lying on the table as an option for this property.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Angus, that's very good advice. So, yeah,
Didn't really understand that.
no, take it out.
Take it out from,
That's what he said. It will become quite circular if you leave it as an option for this project.
Okay.
Yeah,
We still need direction from Maria from this meeting about it, though, don't we? No.
if you say in this meeting, we want to consult with whether you cottage is going to be an option for this site, or this site's going to be an option for you cottage.
Yeah.
And we could address, just concern about cost. Ask the question, it's all right matters. But if that's there, then I don't think Maria will be bringing back the cottage.
Yeah.
I think Maria will only bring back a new cottage if you guys are not going to this site and actually go project on that to get the board to make a decision on the options for you.
So what's the suggested wording you reckon?
Well, I suggest that after, after four,
Right.
I think that's fine, you don't want to put a specific, and it says, please, you know,
Well, after the advice we've just got,
Consult on, re-engage around the youth village siting, possible potential.
not based on the advice that we've just received, unless I've misunderstood it. That's how I understand it. He doesn't have any compunctions about things, Nigel, that's the thing. So, yeah.
So are you wanting the cottage in the places? Are you wanting your cottage?
Are we happy with that as it is?
Yes.
Without new cottage
Yes,
within the
100%.
phase 2 consultation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Right. Okay. Just to make sure that the ball's not dropped with your cottage that at a later date, we.
No, I'm comfortable with that resolution.
Right, we're up to.
As long as the mover is comfortable with the resolution.
I'm comfortable with it.
Good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Right, let's go on to the next step, which is the motion.
Yeah.
Have a look through. All those in favour of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Against? It's carried. Abstain. One abstain. Thank you for noting that.
Good.
Abstain. Okay.
So it doesn't-
Thanks for your work, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you back next week.
Sorry to take up so much of your time.
No, it's good, it's important.
Well worked.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Marie.
That's democracy, isn't it, I think? Give me
Thank you. Right, we're trying to move along because we're holding a lot of people up, it'll take a lot longer, so thank you so much, staff, thank you very much, community.
That's good.
Right, we're going to move to item 9. Thank you. Get a mention. Training plan.
It's gonna be the.
We have to grab this at lunchtime.
Yeah, we actually want more options. So it doesn't preclude. And he was right. And-
The Zoo Committee and Kapolini here, who is representing Te Runa o Pātaka. And we also have Whitney Copping and Kelly Gardner with us today, also from Pātaka and Colin Jankai.
Thank you for your patience in waiting.
You're right.
Thank you for how long you are, everybody.
Thank you for your patience.
Ka mana matapu tāne, ka mana matapu a Tangarawa, hauwei, ko ngā atua, ko ngā tahikite wa ka makawhiwa, ko ngā heki me utu whenua, whakawhenua, whakapaitika no iana whiwhia tāua i rauwe. Ko Āpera Pirani, raua ko Āpera ni here tēnei. I'm a representative of Te Runanga o Naitau, as mentioned. It's Margaret Brown, representative of Te Runanga o Kokorarata, and Colin of the Cairns Bay Reserve Committee. Today, I'm just going to manamihi to the perennial report for Te Pātaka o Rākaihautū. And as our tupuna Waitai Tikau said, whai ara ka tapu wai o te mai haranui no ka uri a nui ake nei. So we'll take the footsteps of our tupuna te mai haranui and for us and our children after us forever. So just, yeah, the representative speaking today is representing Kokorarata and O'Kane's, same as Colin, and I'm a sort of an external representative to make sure that our reporting rights to Ngātau are very clear and that there are, just so you know that we're all our positions are, and just to make sure in other meetings that our whānau members feel safe and presented and represented well within. But today we feel very safe as well, so just to meet you, e te rakatia tēnei, tēnā koutou katoa, and te manuhini, o te rā, tēnā koutou katoa. So, whatever, I'd like Brad to talk, so I hope you've got a lot of ink in your pens, if I can talk.
Kia ora, everybody. Well, you know, we've got quite a long report here, and yeah, I've just been listening to the discussions that you had, and they're wonderful, and it's wonderful the way you resolved the outcome, I thought too. Because you're not putting it down to the community, and so I would support your resolution. Even though I thought I was here from 10 to 11. I'm here much later. So ours is a very brief report because it's a standard report from a campground, but the only difference in this campground is it's owned by Ngāi Tahu, and it's comes under the mana of Rākaihautū, and it is the buildings that are administrated by the council. So that's different from all the other campgrounds. I guess you know, we're very late in producing this report. We're years behind. Okay, so I apologise to you for not being prompt and to the point earlier, but we've got a 2-page report that you need to look at and agree to. That's pretty simple. So I asked if anybody in the room who hasn't read the report, the whole 28 pages of it. Have you read the 28 pages, you people?
Yeah.
You're going to be making a decision based on the 28 pages, not on the 2 pages. So you asked Colin any technical questions because the council wrote the paper, not me. I have priorities, which I might run through with you. Please do. Hold on, I need to give a glass. Can't speak. And these are Runanga priorities, not community necessary priorities. But when we turn to the report, we find things like there is no dual language signage there. So everybody who goes into that campground, especially tourists, don't even know that the whenua that they're putting their tent on belongs to Ngāi Tahu. They don't even know that because there's not one sign in Māori, not one. And so one of our aspirations is to put dual signage throughout the whole campground, and you can see that in the report. So that's very important to me. It's very important to me that we rebuild Pātaka because it was a shed gifted to us by the museum, by Murray Theka, and turned into a marae, but it never was built properly, and it's facing in the wrong direction. And the maho is constantly trampled by strangers. So we need to put fences up to utilise it properly. Yeah, and we created an urupa there too illegally. We didn't have council permission, we didn't have a VCAN's permission, we didn't have police permission, anybody else. We just buried our ancestors' bones from the museum in that urupa. That's what we did. We took them across the road to our land, buried them. So there's an urupa there that's really important to us, but it's an illegal. We took we believe it's our right to do that. We don't have to come and ask you. So we did it. So I'm just telling you. So we wanted to develop that land properly so that people can't trample over the maho or the marae. That's the biggest priority for me, but it's listed in here anyway. But there are other very important things like Sefton Park needs to be sorted out because it's something we talk about but don't actually do. And there's various other things, but they're all listed here for you to see, and you've all read it, so it's no good me repeating things. But so I guess what I want to know is, do you have any questions before you endorse our plan? That's basically my position being here. I would like to know what you think of my plan, our plan, and if you have any questions of us about it. So Hearing.
I have a question.
Mhm.
How did you find the process of going through and doing the training plan?
Oh, look, it took us one meeting. It's easy, but we worked on the old thing, so we
Okay.
updated it basically, sent it back to you. This is not a big long process for us.
Yeah.
We don't have to go and consult with a whole lot of people because we are the representatives of that group. But I have to tell you that I haven't taken this plan back to the Rūnanga because it's multicultural. I've certainly taken the aspects that are to do with things Māori back, the whole thing. But I should. And after I've been here, I think I will take it back to the next meeting and say, this is what we've decided, and it looks like the community committee endorsed it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, have you got any questions of me, because otherwise, this is a quick deal.
Well, it's a great plan. Nigel, you've got a question?
Awesome, thank you, Graham. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I've been around a wee bit. And I remember coming earlier days and there was obviously a lot of teaching. I always felt a lot of teaching.
Yes, there is.
And I need to you to, and thank you for coming and doing this from a Tangata Tiriti partnership. And thank you very much. I think the plan looks very good. I would like to hear some feedback from the council side of things. But I don't really have too many questions. I think everything you've asked for is reasonable, particularly the Urupa legality and some signage. I cannot believe there's not dual signage. You go everywhere and you go dual signage.
Yeah.
But also maybe a little bit more than that about the importance of the site and signage as well, and the fact that it is another where it needs and what it means to the
We need a karakia on the gate.
The karakia.
So they're all safe.
Yeah, they're all safe. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. But, yeah, I would really like that.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Yeah, thank you for your report. I really enjoyed thoroughly. Just want to point out the one thing I may have missed. The reference to Urupa is not in this report.
It's not there, no.
It's not going to be, or?
Well, I just thought of it when I said it, that it actually should be here. It should be in there, but it's.
Can we hear from staff on how that would work and if that's possible?
Because it's illegal, you see. I mean, we've fenced it off and done all of that, but we haven't done the legal process of creating a cemetery.
But you would still like to protect it?
Yeah,
Yes.
There's bodies buried all
Well, if you
over.
go over there and dig it up, we will be at war.
Yeah.
And it is currently fenced off, so remember that when you created that section within that reserve. Definitely not my area of expertise. My part within all of the different Archange reserves is very much representing the campground and our staff there. As far as formalising it as a cemetery, that's something that we need to go through the Parks Department to, whether they need to do to recognise that, but whether we wanted to do that as a separate process to this one, to keep this one moving along and then just have it as a.
I think we would have to do it separately because I haven't been back to the Rūnanga to approach you to make it legal. Okay, so I need them to want to do that first. I'm just bringing it to your attention.
It would be a real benefit for all of us as health and safety plan, more than anything, because we wouldn't want to be walking on your tupuna's bones if we knew it was there and vice versa. So just health and safety for everyone, keeping their own best interests, and especially kumana from volcano kawa te
And it's not very clear that that's what it is to anyone else, it's very much undercover. So again, addressing the signage through all of those reserves could help address that.
So Paul and I will take it back to the Rūnanga and maybe come back to you to amend this. We'll send you a letter and say maybe we can talk about this another time. The Urupa part,
Yeah.
Linda's looking at me and so is Pete, but I know Luana's got a question, so maybe we'll go with Linda first.
I just wanted to point out that the training plan is no legal document, so it
Right.
can be
Yes.
updated.
Yeah. Luana.
Just in terms of Koiwi being one of the property sites, so that is only going to be a site for Koiwi, or is that anticipated to be a Udu park or?
I don't think people will be buried there because if you look at the climate adaptation plan, you know, son of wood. So some of our people don't want to bury any more bones there. But I think they're wrong because the bones are not resting and they should be in the ground. And they've taken some and they've put them in front of the museum and they've put them in the Rākaihautū Pātaka, which I believe was the wrong decision on our part because they didn't come from there. They came from Pātaka. They came from other places. We buried only the bones that we knew were not ours from Rākaihautū in that Rūtapa. But see, Machi Payne was the chairperson then and he understood the whole cultural concept. Since then, other people have made different decisions and they've taken bones from the cemetery, from the museum and they buried them at Rākaihautū. I opposed all of that. Personally, because they were my bones, because I come from Pāna. Pāna is at Little Akaroa. Okay, so that was a traditional pā, because you all know that you gave us £300 to go squash into Rākaihautū, because we owned half the peninsula before that, from Flea Bay to the top. So that was where the people of Rākaihautū lived. But, you know, Governor Gray gave us £300 and stuck us in excavation and Rākaihautū. Well, some of the bones in the museum are mine. They're from Pāna. And my colleagues at Rākaihautū buried them at Rākaihautū. And they knew they were mine. So they did that even in spite of the fact that they're mine. So we have a lot of angst that we've got to fix ourselves. So this cemetery, and they should have buried them in that cemetery, but they didn't, because we had to change the leadership. Okay, so just mildly politics for you.
Yeah, no, very interesting. I honestly, I could listen and learn more all day and wish we could, but we do need to move on because we want to.
For sure, 10 minutes, fine.
No, you get just as much time as you need.
Not at all. I would just, personally, I'd be like digging more into that. We can spend all day going into that area.
I'm happy to move.
It's got history, you know, because the problem is the history is it seems to stop or start with colonisation. There's a lot of history well before colonisation.
I'm right with you on that. My favourite subject is doing a lot of time delving into that.
Oh, Penny, just a real quick question.
So, it's just regarding, we had a presenter from UC come and his name was Sam Hampton. And in terms of just knowing what he did, his studies around from the mountains to the rivers and yeah, just to tie in and the floodings. It was about flooding research, but it was definitely looking at the holistic. So that would be quite a good thing to look at holistic.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So that would be nice to just tap into.
So, Asa, do we have a mover?
I will move, yeah.
Please. Nigel was seconded. All those in favour of accepting the training plan? Right. That is carried.
I know it's in the formality.
That's fine, and appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Appreciate your.
Yes, first time report. Yeah, so let's go, after our recreation ground, and then after that we will do, we will talk to Alison about Te Oka, and then we'll do lunch after that.
So.
See you next Friday.
Yes.
I might come to your public meeting.
Thank you.
Good. Welcome back. Good to see you again, Lisa.
Lovely, it's lovely to see you all. So this is just looking for a lease for the Akaroa Play Centre. They actually helped financially towards building of it. And they've been in there since day one. They're 2 mornings a week. It does not preclude anyone else from using the building. It's still a bookable space. They do have a section that's exclusively for them, plus the outdoor area. But they pay for all the maintenance on all of that. And we just think they're a really good group. You know, cricket's still in there, people have parties in there. And we got it specifically the classification change with the forethought of actually giving play centre a bit more surety. Because they have been there since day.
Yes.
Right. It's pretty straightforward to me. Does anybody have, no, just got a question?
No, I had to.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I'm just, wasn't thinking the report, what was just, not that it's that relevant, but the classification change was from something.
Recreation reserve.
Yeah.
Because it's a recreation reserve will be play sport.
Yeah.
And it is just putting the land under the building and their playground, just changing that little bit, surveying it off to local purpose community building. It's what we do, so where we can have a mix of groups using, because it's recreation, in theory, play centre should never have been there. But because originally the lease was with the Akaroa Sports Pavilion, which was a community group, and then that folded. Before they folded, they had a sub of the play centre. So what we did was just roll the sublease until we could get a classification change done, so that it's all legal that they're on there. And it's only that and their playground that we've changed the classification.
Right, so we've got Nigel moving it, us seconding it. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd love to go, yes, we like that.
And to wait all that time.
Motivation.
Thank you, good to see you. Alison, come on up. I'm just trying to find what page we're on, but I think we're on 113. So, all those people who have followed along. Thanks for coming to us today, Alison.
It's all right. I've come to the community board to request approval for a stage management program for the pine forest at Pātaka. So I had the pleasure of taking some of you over to Pātaka.
Yes, thank you.
And we may have discussed briefly the 13 hectare pine forest that's up here. So, yeah, well, really, the reasoning behind our request is that we felt that 13 hectares would be better transition to native forest because it would support social te ao Māori and wider landscape biodiversity values if it was native forest rather than. And also for management reasons, because the forest is getting older, in the next probably 5 to 10 years, it's going to start collapsing, and then the management of it will become very difficult because we can't access it to control animal pests and weeds. And it'll just really narrow down the options that we've got for it. So the resilience of the landscape will be better off if it's in native forest. That's our view. It's also an ongoing source of wilding clients. So we're really lucky. We've got some volunteers that come in and they have control over 2,000 wilding clients. So they're hardcore pine tree killers. Lindsay Main and his team. And also it's a very little commercial value because it's not being managed, it's not being pruned or thinned, so it's just, yeah, it's pretty rubbish wood really. So, yeah, so I'd like to seek your support on what you think about this and answer any questions that you've got. I've consulted with Wairua Runanga. So we work in quite closely with Wairua and have got a really good relationship with them because
they have the adjacent property. In fact, they've got the downstream property from this tiny block, so they're really okay with what they wanted to do, but in saying that, I haven't had a formal response from them. Yeah, so I've presented in the report some options, what we can do with the pine forest. Our preferred option would be a gradual transition to natives, and to do this would be a process of gradually drilling and filling some of the trees. Because the trees are quite old, we need to demonstrate that we're replacing them with natives. So we are planning to do some quite careful studies on how the native regeneration changes underneath the pine forest when you create light gaps. So I've got a lot of interest from Manaki Whenua Land Care Research, University of Canterbury, and MPI in the project. They're all keen to support trying to look at it scientifically to see what's a good gap size to create. So that will inform our management decisions going forward. That's very interesting. Do you have any questions from you, Kelly?
So in terms of the space you will work on and stuff, and if the runanga down there, what studies will you look at for like the impacts downflow with either sediments or probably
That's
sediment?
Right. That's a really important point actually, and that's why we've discounted the option of unclear filling, because that would mean that you would get a lot of sediment. And I'm not sure whether you're aware, but we are also keen to look at the pine forest that's just up behind here in Misty Peaks as well. And I was advised to separate out the Te Oka pine forest and the Misty Peaks one, because at Misty Peaks there's a wahitapu site. And that the consultation for that might take longer, but ironically, the Onuku Runanga have come back to me very quickly and said that they're really supportive of what we'd like to do. So I may well come back to you whether you want me to present on that occasion or not, I'm not sure, but I will be also seeking the same decision for Misty Peaks as well. Good question.
Seems to make a lot of sense. I don't see lots of questions, so very good report, very thorough, details what we need to know, so thank you. I'm happy to move that, someone like to second that, we've got Nigel, all those in favour? It's carried.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, absolutely.
James. Oh, James is online. Okay, right, I'm sorry, next step, so finishing off with you, Alice, before we move on. Always like to be here. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Item 13, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll
Thank you
leave
very
that.
much for what you do, and really interested to hear about how that goes and what you find out. That would be really good.
Certainly, and I'll come back to you about Mr. Peters.
Cheers. Appreciate it. Okay. James, we've got you online here and you're part of this, but also part of the Leading Light Lane transition to pine block and native forest, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm just here to speak on the Leading Light report, if that's okay. Yeah. So for those that don't know me, I'm James McDuff. I'm a arborist in the Parks Unit, and I'm just sort of presenting this on behalf of Toby, who's couldn't be here today. But we've got a block of pine trees over in Leading Light Lane in Governors Bay. We've had a request from our red zone team this is where the type of land that the trees sit on, to assess these trees for their sort of future viability. So we've gone over and had a look and sort of made an assessment and obviously presented this report to you guys as to what our preferred option is. The trees, the land area is approximately 16 to 1700 metres squared, about 100 trees sitting on the block. And the trees are semi-mature in age, so it's a relatively young group of pines. They're established, but they're not mature at all yet. So the area is adjacent to some private properties. Like a house is probably within 10 or 15 metres of the block. Half of the, or maybe a quarter or a third of the block has declined and died. We didn't look into why that had occurred, but yeah, we're just sort of going through the site is really steep and is really, really challenging to work on in terms of maintaining or removing the trees. So part of our assessment, we sort of felt that the site would lend itself better to a native forest type planting. One of the key reasons for that is the native type planting would be permanent and wouldn't need any ongoing future maintenance. And so our options for the block are, a preferred option for the block is to remove the pine block and replace with native species. It removes the risk of declining and ongoing maintenance, improves the biodiversity of the area, and I think it would just be a better long-term outcome. We did assess our option 2, which is to remove the trees that were only in poor condition, but we sort of felt like we should treat the group as one group of trees, not try and separate them out and remove them section by section. If you retain some trees and remove others, that affects the other ones and they can be exposed and end up falling over and whatnot. So that wasn't really high on the list, but we just thought we'd put that in there as an option. And then a third option, which is do nothing, but obviously the trees are going to get bigger. The site will get more challenging in the future if we ever did decide to remove the trees down the track. So there is budget available for the recommended option right now, so that'll be shared between the red zone and the urban forest to remove those trees. So that's also another factor is future. If we leave it for the future, we may not have the budget to do the works. We've gone ahead and already received prices to do the work, so that's what's informed the pricing on the budgets. And there will be a sort of a small climate impact, I guess. Obviously, the trees that will be removed if the preferred option went ahead would release their stored carbon back into the air, but obviously the replanting would, in the long term, sequester that carbon back down. So, that's sort of all I've got to say. So, any feedback or any questions, happy to answer. Yeah.
I think it's a very thorough report, thank you. And we've already had one person who has moved it, so that's a good sign. And I'm happy to second it. All those in favour?
Right.
Yes, that is carried. I seconded it. And Cameron moved it. Thank you, James.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much.
Being online, really appreciate that. We're running a bit behind time today, so. And thank you for coming in and standing up to Toby.
No worries. Thanks very much. Cheers. Have a good day.
Yeah. Bye-bye. All right. So for those new in the room, we have been running a little bit late. And we're probably just going to go to lunch now. We need to have a break. Then there's 30 more meetings yet. So how minutes? I need lunch obviously. My words are not ready. Are we having so just give me a minute to figure out what we're doing strategically. We're doing this now. Okay, no, pure just half an hour break. Okay, we will be back at 1:15. Meeting, which will take another half an hour. And then there'll be the information session, which is that what the folks are here for? The information session. So the information session, I would imagine, would be at closer to 2 o'clock, 1:45. 1:45, if my math is right. So just to let you folks know, apologies. Thank you for your patience.
I explained it.
Welcome, and thank you for your patience, everybody. We're getting back into it.
Yeah.
I've said that like 10 million times today. So Linda's here to talk to us next and then to bring back to my page, reserve consent meeting minutes and head-to-head walkway.
Yeah, hello everybody. I will take the reserve committee minutes as read, except for one really good news thing that came out of the Garden of Pātaka. Reserve committee minutes, they mentioned that Fest Free Banks Peninsula had installed 18 vape stations in the Garden of Pātaka reserve to eliminate what they believe are the last few possums in our township, which is really great. For
Yeah.
Fest Free.
Oh, we'll be positive. That'll be great.
Yeah. Until the new ones arrive. The migration.
All right, so we will take that as read, just as before, and we need to, yeah, move it. I'm happy to move it. Would someone like to second it? Nigel, all those in favour? Yes, then carried. Thank you. Moving on to head-to-head walkway.
Firstly, Karen.
Good habit.
Just a head-to-head.
Involved, so on page 37 of the agenda, as an attachment is a memo from our traffic engineer with options for improving walking conditions and pedestrian safety between Pūrā Beach and the Pūrā Bay Jetty, which I think you've already put in your priorities list, so you're aware of that. Working group agreed with staff recommendation of option 3, which is localised widening of the informal track on the seating side of Pūrā Avenue. So you have a resolution to note this recommendation by the working group, but it should also be noted that the original request back in March 2024 from the working party to staff was for investigation into a safe pedestrian pathway from the exit of the coastal track to the beach. So the working party has gone back to staff requesting that the missing stretch of pathway between the jetty and the coastal track also be investigated. There's one further recommendation to the board to request annual plan funding to enable staff resource to look into the integration of various walking and mountain biking brochures, so that comprehensive information is readily available in one place and to make improvements on the information where appropriate. Annual plan submissions closed last week, and this was not included in the board submission. However, staff have been investigating other options instead of annual plan funding, and a memo will come to the board and to the head-to-head working party with outcomes in due course.
Thank you, Linda. Oh, sorry, can I?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just to make an amendment to the staff rec, if I may. I've sent through some wording to Heather.
Are ready?
I'd like to replace the wording for number 3, that recommendation, to what I've sent through. Then to move it.
Okay, so that's replacing number 3 on page 29. We're talking about the head-to-head walkway working parties, Request that staff investigate the integration of various walking and mountain biking tracks, brochures into a comprehensive repository. Thank you, that's the other one. Okay. That is readily available in one place and to make improvements on the information we have right here.
So it's not a massive change from what was there, it's just to give a bit more flexibility, really.
Right, flexibility.
Yeah.
Yep. Any questions around that amendment? No? It's okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. So we need to have a mover for this.
I moved it.
Seconder? Kathy, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Excellent. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. Discretionary response funding applications. Come on up, Steffi. This is page 135. Agenda.
I'm here to bring you the discretionary response application from Rākaihautū Resource Collective Trust. they're seeking wages, funding towards the wages for the coordinator during the trial period of the project. They've applied for $3,456 towards the remaining wages. And staff recommendation is for a $1,000 contribution towards it.
Okay, any questions in regards to that GRF? We're doing them both together though, aren't we?
I am not familiar with the other project. It's Jane. It's not on here. She's there. She's here. Does she want to speak to that one?
Hi Jane, are you there?
Hi, sorry, just unmuting myself.
That's fine.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So the second DRF application, so that's for Burley's Flat 4, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
And tell us
So at the Birdlings Flat Hall, their chairs are getting very old and worn, and so they've decided that rather than replacing them, they're actually going to create a community learning opportunity by a local upholsterer has offered to run a community workshop and teach people the skills of doing the upholstery, and community members will do the parts that they can do, and then the upholsterer will make sure that the chairs are all finished to a high level. So that's rather than paying the cost of having to replace all of the chairs. So that's the first part of it. And then as they were putting that application through, their heat pump stopped working and requires some repairs to get it up and working again. So that's what the application is for, those two things.
So on there's a page 139, it says 1940 is the staff recommendation, but at the top.
Yeah.
I don't think that's been changed under the officer recommendations. Oh yeah, no, it's there, sorry. Yes, having a lot of those up there.
Full amount.
It's all there. Thanks, great. Any questions about those two projects?
I think I'm happy
No,
with the
looks like we're all
recommendation.
happy. Okay, who would like to move that? Luana, second it. Us, all those in favour? Against? That is carried. Thanks very
Lovely.
much.
Thank you.
Right, let's move along and clear pace here to the area board report. Area report? That's the one.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, you'll see a lot. Yep, you'll see a lot in there that staff have been just updating you on the work projects and bits and pieces, including a photo of the completed story, the Birdlings Flat that you funded a little while ago, which is very nice. That was from DRF funding, I think, was it that one? Yeah, or from DRF. Anyway, it's there. It's beautiful. Look, any questions? What questions?
So just really quickly with the destination management plan and the head-to-head walkway in terms of if we bring it to them about being more inclusive with the walk back tracks. I think that was one of the recommendations or advice that we can work closer together with.
Where's that, sorry, is it on the area report?
Yeah, we said in the head-to-head when we talked about the brochures for the walking and bike tracks, that we know that Christchurch and Z do their maps and things, whether we could be more inclusive, and you would have in your area report, you talked to Christchurch and Z, that was like one of the things we could address.
Ask them about brochures.
Yeah, like what information. I think it was just more maybe a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can just pass that on to
Yeah.
involved with that.
Just would like to make a comment on that GMP, same item. We talked about it, never mentioned last time. About being parts, advocating for a steering committee. So I think number 14, but they asked me to write something if I haven't had a chance, so.
We put that up with the annual plan, so it was part of the presentation as well, so I guess we'll just get feedback once that's been processed. Is that the next step? Start? Yeah.
Okay.
You can click live. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Great, fantastic, right. So, we just need to receive this now, unless there's any more questions. Okay, I'm moving to receive the information. Can I have a seconder, please? All those in favour?
Aye.
Yes, it is carried. Ooh. Elected members exchange. Fantastic. Luana, would you like to start? I don't even want to. You're like, you could have now.
Yeah, yesterday, at Rākaihautū, we had a initiative that is running over the next 5 weeks. It's called 5 Mauna in 5 weeks. So we kicked that off with a few from around the area coming together to walk up to my theatre. That was awesome. So that's going to happen for every ancestral Mauna around the marae on the peninsula. And somebody got my drumstick. Boy races. Thank you. A lot of concern, especially from Governor's Bay over the last few weeks. Nothing seems to be happening in terms of how we manage that issue. There's a real reluctance, it seems, from the police to monitor the peninsula. I understand that, again, the geography, but surely we can get a couple of police patrols over the weekend. I know crime doesn't exist over those times or after sunrise, sunset. But I don't know what we can do. It's really frustrating. Yeah, so I don't, yeah. Yeah, what do we do? I guess ongoing question. There is a public meeting on Sunday at St Saviour's Church at 3 p.m. That is in opposition to the reclamation that Liverpool Port Company is currently doing.
What time is it?
3 p.m.
On Sunday.
On Sunday, yeah. St Saviour's Church. And just a nice reminder from Kath again, the Matariki Tonga Awards. So just really encouraging people to put that out on their community networks to get their votes in.
Whakarato, Hava. Not in the whole peninsula.
No, just, yeah. So there was I think I put something out this morning, but I'll send it around to everybody the link that you can go to vote. That's me, thank you.
Shall we go and stick with this way? Sorry, and I tried.
Oh, yeah, no, I can go. I'll go. I probably won't have everything, but so obviously, like the sort of the main show in town for council at the moment is our annual plan hearing. So we've started that. Obviously, Lynn and Nigel came in for a wonderful deputation on Thursday, and my left here also made some lovely deputations as well. So anyway, so that stage 2 that happens tomorrow, like the second round, and that's kind of all happening this week and into next. So that's really good and lots of good engagement there. I won't go too deeply into the Port Levy batch thing, but you might be aware that obviously we made a decision on that that came to council, but it was actually taken off the agenda, and because more information was required on that, we'll leave that there. Didn't see the Pumpkin Festival yesterday, Lynn. I was looking out for you, but I'll let you talk about that.
Pretty busy.
It was very busy.
It made national news.
It's a brilliant event, eh? It was a real nice day as well. I've been to a couple of, there's a lot of talk at the moment around the dark skies accreditation for Banks Peninsula. So the local MP, Peninsula, has been holding a couple of public meetings, both of which I went to. Nigel and I came to the Akaroa one briefly, and after the Bayholes, Nigel. And it was quite interesting actually. So Akaroa was on the Saturday and Birdling's Fete was on the Sunday, and this is what I love about Banks Peninsula. You just get like 2 completely different meetings on 2 different days about the same thing. And so packed house at Birdling's Flat. There and some very strong opinions, and it was anyway. We'll just see how that kind of evolves. I can see the appeal of Banks Peninsula as a dark skies thing, and it fits within our destination management plan because it's, you know, just a low impact kind of a tourist attraction. But anyway, we'll just have to see how that evolves. I am speaking at the Diamond Harbour Residents Association AGM tonight. Just heads up, just to let you know that I'm doing that. And that's the end of my list. I'm sure there are other things, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, thank you. Made a couple of submissions on annual plan. That was really good. Over the past 2 weeks, there's been quite a sudden moments in Accra. We lost quite a number of elderlies, and one really tragic accident last week lost 2 people. So while it can be argued that reducing the speed limit on state highway could positively impact the accidents, but in this case, I don't know, didn't save those lives. Our roads and the way they are being managed and need for improvement and passing lanes remains high priority. That's what I hear from members of our community. So this speed, we just can't say that reducing speed will solve all the problems of the back. It won't. We need to really improve the standard of our roads so that we can save precious lives, like what we have seen a week ago. And it's not good for emergency respondents who turn up on such accidents. It's a trauma for them, because they cannot unsee what they have seen. So that becomes a big challenge in our communities. Thank you. That's all. Yes.
I just like to make a comment on that. I think speed limit was an issue for that accident, but I'd dearly like to know more about it. They're dear friends of ours, Jack and Ann, and he had been prone to sort of his foot slipping and stuff, and he's in his early 90s, so it's a very sad thing, but wasn't a direct around the speed limit. I just really want to talk a little bit about the multicultural festival. I don't like the thought of it, the idea dying. We've had people come and present to us. I've actually been involved in several multicultural festivals through the martial arts with my grandson and my daughter, both be involved in exhibitions of martial arts. And one particular one in Pātaka where the park where they had all the food trucks and all the different things that happened. I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity, as the Harrison Hunt said, it's a work in progress and there's no money obviously there actually allocated. That it might be a good chance for some of the local residents to hold a festival here using the existing infrastructure. We've got a school with a beautiful kitchen. We've got an indoor facility up there. We've got the Gaiety where we could have cultural dance and stuff up on the stage, and even down on the recreation ground. By then, I think it could be on it later in the year, or sometimes a wee bit out from now, heading into next summer. That could be a great opportunity to keep the conversation alive. Just sort of pass it on. I know they do work in some great infrastructure here that will allow for that. So that's about it for me, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Nigel. Birdlands Flat had Vanessa with Dark Skies came in, and there's like 40 or 50 people there. And I think it was really informative. I think people in a way knowing more about it. And now there's going to be a survey next in regards to the feelings within the community, whether they would like to be included in that or not, which is the right way to go ahead. And we'll just see what they decide. Either which way, there's still people coming out there in flocks and droves on Aurora nights. So just as far as what the community would need to know, that is still a concern. Do what we can to help that out. Pumpkin Fest, cool. I haven't seen it busy. I've been involved with Pumpkin Fest for a few years now, and real busy. So hold it together really well. It's fantastic. Those things really connect people, and the money all went back to the school. And the school's quite low numbers at the moment. It's just the way things ebb and flow, but the community came together and helped to volunteer and just run things so well. So really proud of our community for that.
And Lynn, did you know that Joe Wells' sister won the Fugly section of?
Which one was that? Was that the one that was in you describe what it looked like?
Well, it was just an unattractive pumpkin.
There was one that grew inside.
I bumped into Joe and thing, and she said, "Oh, this is my sister," and she won the Fugly section.
Yeah. Like, it's really well supported for that very reason. It's so fun to be all that. And plan stuff, yeah, as we talked about, just thank you to staff for support on that, pulling together our ideas and making them into cohesive, understanding things that then I can write a presentation to. So really, thank you very much, staff, for all your help with that. And just covering really what we want to, what we've been listening to the community, what we want to protect and what we want to enhance. It's always really a way that I kind of wrap it for council to understand around information centres, around DMT, around climate resilience, historical stability, our buildings that we need to keep, like Pātaka and Pātaka Bay. All of those things were in there. So lots to cover, and let's just wait and see what comes out of that. What else? Waitāha Primary Health, just, yeah, I'm a representative there, waiting to hear really what's coming from government. The next steps, where do we go to? There's been a lot of stalling, a lot of waiting, treating water, and that's been quite full on. Yeah, that's it from me today.
Really quickly, I came to the seafloor mapping collaborative program with Tyrone. Thank you. And a few others. That was awesome, wasn't it? Yeah, just.
I missed that.
I think our next question was, are you doing that on our side of the harbour? So that opened a whole lot of questions, but interest too, I thought. Casper is having their quiz night as a fundraiser on Wednesday at the Top Club. I've just started attending the Project Littleton meetings again. Somehow fell off the list, but back, so it's great. They're doing good work, keeping up with what they're doing. Littleton youth programs are trying to reactivate, I suppose. They'll just look at options and how they can support youth around Littleton. The tools and things, the Littleton Makerspace and Tool Library are running workshops. You just have to follow their Facebook page and see what's going on there. Yes, Upholstery's next, and they did jewelry too, I think. Also heard compliments about the staff's harbour network meetings and the theme, so that was really positive to hear that, that's working well. And the last one was just still on the focus of public transport and things like that, advocating or raising awareness to Littleton Primary School and parents that there was a potential threat to lose the Littleton Primary School bus. So they activated to the ministry and things like that, and they are not in danger anymore, which is great because they just had to gain understanding when the public buses come into the bay and leave, and when it suits and doesn't suit to arrive at especially in the primary school on time. So luckily that's not going anywhere at the moment, but it was really important to raise that, I think, with the community. And because they're doing their annual plan stuff at ECAN. Yeah.
Stuff, maybe. Brilliant.
Just a few things probably. I'm aware that there was a buzz night the other night. Unfortunately, I couldn't go, and but that was in Littleton for business associations or businesses in Littleton to go to. And I haven't heard any reports about that, but I'm assuming it went well, but and hopefully might hear something. And we had some communication, we as in Kathy and I, really, about boat safety in Naval Point, but that was really resolved as something that those people were going to council staff about.
Just the boat safety group, was it?
Yeah.
James and that?
Yeah. So I can get back on that one.
That is good. Deputation for the annual plan.
Right,
Well, so-
yeah, I think so, yeah. And there's some communication going to happen about the rec centre with Wendy Mackay and Eve Mickle. Because that came out during the last meeting, was it? That we're going to talk about that. And my understanding, I'm pretty sure I'm right, is there's one more cruise ship for the season. So we've got through the season.
April 10th.
Yeah. And that's all I've got.
Thanks. Donna.
Sorry, I'd just like to wish Kathy a happy birthday.
Is it
Today, but close. 2 days.
Oh,
But thank you, everybody.
so for today.
Thanks,
All right, yeah. Very good.
Did you take some more?
Oh, just a couple of, on the back of, Kathy said, just, so council, just for Project Littleton, council awarded from discretionary response $30,000 last Wednesday to Project Littleton to help with traffic management. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of money, but I mean, the market can't go ahead without that traffic management, and it is just so expensive. And I know Project Littleton are working really, really hard to try and get that, but yeah, it's complicated.
Oh, good.
These things come at a cost, unfortunately. And yeah, is the public meeting we went to regarding the seafloor mapping for Akaroa that had been led by Onuku. That was really a great example of how 100 people can turn up to the Gaiety Theatre pretty much no problem at all on a Tuesday evening, and it just shows that level of community engagement there, which is quite pertinent considering the conversations we've had today. So, but that was a really, really good evening. And yeah, so yeah, anyway, there you go.
Awesome. Great stuff going on in the community, as always. Thank you very much for all that you do, as always. And it is a bit of a privilege as well. So I hope you all feel that too. Right, ready for deep, I should say. After this is supposed to be after our lunch break, but we're here again to catch up with. Oh, finishing one and starting another one. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Close it out.
Right, we have to officially finish this one. We'll finish it with the card here.
Yeah.